This is K.M. Weiland, and you're listening to the 149th episode of the Wordplay Podcast. If you happen to be walking down the street past your local coffee shop and see a wild-haired, red-eyed, gibbering writer, that's probably me. After 150 hours of editing over the last month and a half, I am on the near edge of bonkers. The good news is I'm boiling in on the end. I should finish up my read-aloud, typo-catching run-through this week, and then the manuscript is off to the editor and the critters, while I get to take a breather from it for a bit. I won't lie, as much as I love this story, I'll be glad for the break. And now, pass the coffee and the comb. Are you a genre flip-flopper? The latest post in the video series on my blog explains why guiding reader expectations through proper framing and foreshadowing is vital to a successful story. You can watch the video on my blog at wordplay-kmweiland, that's weiland.blogspot.com. New videos are posted every Wednesday. And now, I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast, Why Self-Conscious Writers Are Doomed. Who do you write for? At first glance, that may seem like a silly question, or even a question that doesn't need answering at all. But it's one worth not just thinking about, but focusing on every single day. Chances are your first blush answer to the question will agree with what Miriam Kobris, author of The Distant Shore, said on her Facebook page a few weeks ago. I write because I love writing, and because there are stories in my head I want to tell. And that, my friends, are the only reasons. But chances are also good that answer isn't quite true for you. Most of us sit alone at our keyboards, but we're not alone in our solitude. Who knows how many other people are in the room with us? Our parents, our husbands, our wives, our co-workers, our critique partners, the ghosts of classic authors, or even the doppelgangers of current bestsellers. Every single one of these people has something to say. They sit clustered around our keyboards, squinting judgments on not just the technicalities of our prose, but on our content as well. We hunch our shoulders and keep typing resolutely, but their whispered demands can't help but infiltrate our minds. If we don't stave them off, we're likely to start writing for them, or rather what we imagine they want, rather than out of the deep and honest well of ourselves. And the moment this happens is a sad moment indeed in the realm of writerdom. Generally speaking, authors live in a state of quivering fear. Aside from the general worries that our story craft isn't good enough, we're also usually on the verge, or often way over the verge, of freaking out about what people are going to think about us. This is bad. I cannot even begin to tell you how bad this is. Think nuclear fallout bad. The best gift we can share with our readers is our honesty. And the moment we begin to worry about the worth of that honesty is the moment our writing becomes stilted, forced, and fake. Best-selling author Terry McMillan, in an interview with Gabriel Packard in The Writer, February 2012, advises authors to write without looking over your shoulder. Write it as if no one is going to read it. That's what frees you. If you can stop thinking about critics and your editor and whether your book's going to make it into the Times and how long it is going to be on the list, that can totally free you up. I recently read an early draft of teenage author Braden Russell's first novel, and the thing that struck me most was the utter lack of self-consciousness. It showed. The novel lived and breathed and walked and ran because the author hurled himself onto the page without worrying about pleasing others. He pleased himself, and because he did so, he produced something fresh and honest enough to please readers. Now, admittedly, writing for yourself is way yonder easier before that first book is published. Once one of your babies is out there in readerland, where it will be judged, you can't help but seize up a bit as you sit down to write subsequent books. Suddenly, the cold, wonderful, harsh reality is that you aren't writing just for yourself anymore. Sadly, or perhaps not, this is no excuse. If we're going to write, we must write with abandon. Forget wielding that machete and flamethrower on intruders. Start wielding them against the fanged, cackling monster of your own self-consciousness. You know that old saw about courage not being the absence of fear, but rather the ability to move forward in spite of it? Well, that's good writing for you. If what you're writing scares you, you can bet you're moving in the right direction. As much as you can, ignore those judgmental voices hissing and whispering over your shoulder. Write for yourself. Write the story you want to write. Write what you love, what makes your heart soar and your chest collapse. Write what scares you. Write it even if you know others won't like it. This is the well from which great writing flows. So, gird your loins, seize your weapons, poke in your earplugs, and start hammering those keys. Thank you for listening to the Wordplay Podcast. To read a transcript of this episode, visit me on the web at wordplay-kmwyland, that's weiland.blogspot.com, and be sure to listen again next week.